3, 2, 1. Right, Dave. Okay, let's check we're live.
We live? Are we live? We live?
I know. It's getting boring now every week. Let's have a little look. Hey, everyone. If you've just joined us, cool. Okay. Looks like we are live. So, yeah, if you've... welcome to another Tuesday tune-in. If you've just landed, do drop your name in the comments, say hello. Give us a little thumbs up as well, just to let you know you're on the live.
Yeah.
Always good to see who's here, because the names don't exactly drop in for us. But yeah, Dave, right? You're back in prison by the looks of it, and
I see you. I see you're at the office, doing some tracking.
I know. We just let everyone know we're having a bit of an office redecoration at the moment. Hey guys, hey everyone who's joined us, Sinead, Amanda, Leah, Paul. Nice to see you on here, Julie. Yeah, I'm actually in this little secret room in the same building as EverTrek's office, but this was a random meeting room, and it happened to have this wonderful backdrop, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the live there. So yeah, it's not exactly Nepal. It's more like
right. I just realised something. Do you remember when I said, "How do I get a backdrop?" I thought that was virtual.
No. This is real, Dave.
Oh, I thought that was a virtual backdrop. Anyway, I'm actually in this. I'm in this nice little room where they bring the visitors to meet you. But outside of visiting hours, they do let me use it to do this.
Very good. Yeah, so a little bit mad today. All the team are working from home at the moment anyway. We thought, we'd get the office sort of rejigged, redecorated, because we've grown the team, a bit more space, all good stuff. We've even got some trees going in there, which is going to be nice. What's that?
And moss.
And moss. Yeah, we're actually going to get some moss, which is a bit random, but it's good for the energy of the room. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Dave, today I know we talked about it over the last sort of couple of days, and there was almost that feeling that around Nepal. I know I haven't seen it, but I know you said you saw that documentary about the porter. I know a few people have on the EverTrekkers group as well, and it kind of did bring us back to talking about our staff over in Nepal and our team over in Nepal. Because they've had a tough year. It's been a challenging one. I know a lot of people have, but especially in Nepal with regards to their 2 trekking seasons getting absolutely destroyed, pretty much.
Yeah.
So none of our EverTrekkers have been able to go over there. And we thought, why don't we do one about our porters and our guides? Wasn't it, Dave? I know you obviously saw the documentary.
So it's on YouTube. I'll post a link to it on our Facebook and groups and stuff like that. I think a few people already have. I think Sinead already did it. But no, it's this fascinating documentary, really, and it's about an American guy who goes out to Nepal and hooks up with a company out there to be a porter for an Everest base camp trip. He spoke, really good Nepali, and that's what he did. He lived as a porter. He only took what the porters have. He only ate what the porters ate, and he only slept where the porters slept. So even on the last day from Phakting to Phakting to Lukla, which is not an easy stretch.
Yeah, it's quite steep, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite steep. He carried 100 kilos, which is not what our trekking porters carry, but it is what supply porters may carry, because there's no guidelines there. They can carry whatever they want. But it got us thinking about, that we've always been like very strong in our opinion on and how we support those guys, because they are the backbone of the expedition.
Yeah.
I remember chatting to Anuj over in Nepal, and we were just chatting about the porters and guides, and he says the guides tend to be the rock stars, but without the road crew, they got no show.
That's brilliant.
And the porters are definitely they're the hard-working road crew. They're the heroes behind the stage that make the trips happen.
Yeah.
And it is literally off their backs that we're able to do these trips and stuff like that. So we wanted to basically talk about those guys.
Yeah.
I think there's something else Andy might talk about in a little bit as well. That's quite exciting.
Well, well, don't sound too excited, Dave.
No, I was trying to be coy. That was trying to be coy,
I know. But yeah, over the last, 7 months have been massively sort of challenging for most people. We can't wait to get back to the mountains. So we thought we'd do another little sort of competition for everyone, really. So everyone is on here. I know lots of you have already been to Nepal with us, but we're passionate about getting people back to Nepal. The next year is huge for us.
Yeah.
We got some, we got a lot of people who are taken to Nepal next year. We can't wait for that to happen. But the next few years. So yeah, today we are launching another Ever Space Camp competition. So what we'll do is, I know that especially if you've been to Nepal already, if you do win a prize, because I know a lot of people here, like Bry, Ramona, etc., have been to Nepal. Get yourself in anyway, because obviously if you do win, then you can use that off another trip anyway. If you want to go back to Nepal, because although we ran a Kilimanjaro sort of campaign back sort of a few months ago now, and it was amazing, and we're really excited about Kili. We don't want to forget about Nepal. Nepal is where we first started. It's kind of our spiritual home, and we're really passionate about getting Nepal back on its feet again. And this is why we thought, okay, we're going to do a little bit of a sort of campaign around getting people back to Nepal. I mean, the guys can't wait to have you. If you're going out to Nepal, we thought we'd do that. So why not do it with another competition? Because if you've been following us for a while, we like to do some competitions from time to time. So we're doing it for 2 people actually. It's for, if someone wins, then you get to choose who you're going to take with you. And if one of the guys, because I know that Fee and Lauren are man in the phones or woman in the phones, you can drop the link in here. The guys can enter, but we'll put it on Facebook after this anyway. But I just wanted to tell everyone that's on the live, you may as well get yourself in. I know Sinead just had a really good point there, because Facebook, in its wonderful auto captioning device, which is fantastic most of the time, it's not always right. And yeah, the subtitles just said Space Camp competition, and although I'd love to see you guys get out there to space, we're going back to Nepal. So Facebook said base camp.
Yeah. Do they go automatically? Do they on the live? Do they?
They do. Yeah.
It's go like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That'll come up, right?
And then it'll just say next to it, Newport accent, can't understand him.
Yeah, fair enough. By the way, guys, I apologize for in a lot. I can't. I'm perfectly well. I don't have any COVID, but that makes it a problem going to supermarkets and stuff like that. I was in Morrison's last night, and I was just behind someone in the queue, fully masked up, and I did that little noise, and it was like the Red Sea. It's a good way actually to get at the front of any queue you're waiting in.
Jeez. Don't try that at home. But right, let's get stuck into it, because I know we're going to talk about the porters, especially. They are the hidden heroes. Where do we start, Dave? Should we start about, because we get a lot of questions around sort of tips, in terms of how the porters are almost employed as such. Me too, Dave, don't worry.
Spreading, mate. I told you.
But yes, one person especially asked about the tips. What sort of tips would we recommend for people who are going to Nepal?
Well, so with the tips, so that we do require that you tip the guys and stuff at the end of the journey. It basically is compulsory, because that's
culturally expected.
Yeah. Culturally expected, and also actively encouraged by us. So it's one of those things where we want you to give as generously as you can, but I think a fair amount, is usually maybe like 70 to sort of £100, something like that is usually about fair. So that's each member of the group. What normally happens is you put in about 70 to 100, and you put it into a common pool, and then everyone will kind of like divvy that up then. So it goes to the guide, the second guide, and then the porters and stuff like that. But what we do say is that obviously we can't do the trips without them. And if you watch this documentary, the movie that was made, you'll see, how hard they work and what they do for us. And it is just like they do runs to base camp and back, and we do it once and we're like shattered, they do it Lukla to Lukla, basically, is what they do repeatedly. So, we encourage everyone to give as generously as you can. We do a lot for them as well, because we and our team in Nepal, we absolutely want them to be like looked after and stuff like that. So we provide them with boots, jackets, fleeces, beanies, base layer t-shirts and normal t-shirts and stuff like that as well. So, we do try to look after our guys, and if they do come into the EverTrek fold and work for us, then they are going to be getting sort of slightly more than they used to. But That means that we keep the best porters. They have the best language speaking skills and things like that.
Yeah.
And when you go to base camp as well, you'll find that porters will go with you. You know, you'll have the guides, and then you'll have some of the porters as well supporting you. You know, and they want to get you there as much as they can as well. Yeah. So hopefully that, you know, explains a little bit about why we like the tips are so important to those guys.
No, they are, aren't they? I mean, it goes to show that, you know, the last 9-10 months now, especially with the lack of people going over to Nepal, these guys are real battlers. You know, I mean, most of the porters live in the mountains; they don't live in Kathmandu. Some of the guides do, but they have families and farms dotted around, not just the Khumbu but surrounding area. Some of them actually travel. They travel up to Everest to work, and then some of them live maybe in the Annapurna region or the other regions, Manaslu. So it's quite interesting, really. Excuse me, Dave. This is going to be a theme today.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
I know, right? But yeah, so it's important for them, especially when it comes to the tips. And the way we kind of do it, I think it was Jerome that dropped in there around, you know, who does the divvying up. Because a really good question, Jerome. It's always difficult because instead of having like a trip leader, like for instance, if we did Western leaders, you have that person who can say, okay, I have all the money and then divvy it up. But what we normally do is, because all of our, you know, we like to think of EverTrek as a sort of part of the community, part of the bigger family, if you like. And, you know, we do operate with kind of that trust between us all. And we like to think that's, you know, reciprocal. So we always say if there's one person in the group who can kind of take charge of that and says, okay, I'll look after that. That's kind of what we like to give, you know, responsibility to someone. Just because it's, you know, instead of giving it all the guide and they do it, it's kind of nice to it comes from the group. It's a better feeling. It's a nice celebration that, you know, especially after you reach, say, Everest Base Camp, and then you come down, you know, nice little party, few beers in Lukla before you fly home, then fly to Kathmandu. It's nice to do it there and then, and you can have a drink, you can have some food with the guys in Lukla. So yeah, you can certainly just nominate, or, you know, if someone sort of appears like a bit of a leader or something, or fancies doing it, then it's great. So if you are on the group, and Jerome, if you're there, mate, be great if you can do it, if you're comfortable with that. If not, just get someone in the group to do that. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all relatively, you know, because one of the other questions we get is, you know, like, what is the divvy up? You know, like, what percentage goes to who and where? And it all kind of depends on how much everyone tips. So generally, everyone puts into the collective pot. We all ask you to give as generously as you can. And when you know how much you got, generally the head guide gets the most, second guides get a bit less than him, and porters get a bit less than him. So we generally kind of work it out just almost like ad hoc, if you will, you know. So we kind of work out, okay, so we got this much. If we give that much to the porter, that much to the guide, then okay, then you can adjust it and put, like, you know, 1,000 rupees more with those porters, and you kind of just get like that. There's no right or wrong answer, as long as the sort of structure is that the guide gets more than the second guide, and the assistant guides get a little bit more than the porters. There's that kind of hierarchy to it. Now, the reason why that's important, because they obviously all work equally as hard, is because the guys who are our porters are actually on track to become guides in the future. You know, so there's a hierarchy to it, and a respect that's earned by becoming a guide. Because those guides have actually been porters, they've spent years carrying bags, and then they've learned English, and they've gone through the assistant guide bit, you know, and worked with clients and stuff, and then finally made it to a guide. So that's why we like to sort of offer those rewards out like that, and gives encouragement as well for people to want to become guides, you know, because if everyone got the same amount of stuff, you know, we want people to develop and learn English and and stuff like that. So that's why we do it that way. So yeah, although it's always a tricky one because everyone wants to know specifics. How many dollars goes to the guide? How many to the assistant guide?
I know. You know, so we had a structure like that, we could do it, but it's kind of feels constricted to me.
Exactly. So what we usually do is one member of the group, if you can, you know, stand up. Be the head juror, take it all, and then, you know, just divvy it up. Like me and Andy have done it before, where we just sit there, okay, so this is how much we got, and we start divvying it up, and then we
get the calculator out.
Get the calculator out, do some high altitude maths in your head and stuff like that, and then work it out that way.
Yeah, great stuff. Someone said there as well, in terms of, you know, what currency, you know, do you give to the guides? you know, when you're doing this, and naturally when you're up there, you'll have you can exchange in Kathmandu, or if you're taking money out of the ATM, it comes out Nepalese rupee. So again, it's always because you're thinking how much is, say, 10,000 rupee, where, you know, normally, I'm trying to recall now, I think it's about 146 rupee to £1. So it kind of does get a bit like, oh, okay, right, it's going to take a while now. But normally, yeah, you can, was it between 7 and 10,000, isn't it, Dave? Normally people give,
Yeah,
oh,
so
slightly a bit more, sorry.
yeah, so the last time I went, like the generalized figure was about 10,000 rupees, which works out about £70 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there is, but you can give it in dollars as well. You know, they'll accept American dollars and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, they do, don't they? Actually, yeah. If you have got any dollars, they love you for that. It is fantastic. But I think the point we're trying to get across is, yeah, when it comes to tips, it is one of those things in Nepal that's culturally expected because that's the way it's been for a while now. So we respect that. You know, as people going into their country and their customs. But Dave hit a really good point there, which was that, you know, there is that respect in terms of, you know, taking porters who then train to be assistant guides, who then become guides essentially, you know, years down the line now after they do all their training. You know, their language skills become better because, you know, we've got a certain standard we like when it comes to a guide, but we always like taking that person that's got that enthusiasm and determination to want to be a guide, because, you know, everyone loves a trier, you know, and we want to encourage that, which is why we kind of do that hierarchy structure, if you like.
Yeah.
From what we found anyway, even before starting the company, and I was kind of looking around at how different people in different companies did it, it kind of felt good that we would do it this way, just from you know, how we do it. It looks like, you know, we look after the guides. That's the you know, that's the important thing as well, isn't it, Dave? By looking after the guides, we do attract a better quality of guide.
Exactly. Yeah.
Out there.
Someone just asked, Jishu just asked an interesting question there. Is there an unwritten rule about not giving tips to any individual during the trip, even if they deserve it, and to only give it to them at the end? So it's one of them with it. Like I said, there's no rule book with regards to how you tip or look after the staff. But what we do want to do is make sure that it's fair and that it goes out to everybody, because they work collectively as a team. So we like to reward everyone equally. So by handing over cash and stuff to one individual, you know, in the mid-trip and stuff like that, I think it goes better to use at the end when it goes into the collective, because although that one individual might have helped you personally, another individual might have helped someone else equally as much, you know, and not been tipped, you know. So just to keep that sort of routine going of what they're used to and what we're used to, that's what we do. However, that doesn't mean you can't help them out and do stuff, you know. So when we were on trips before, you know, buy them all a Snickers bar or something like that, things they wouldn't normally buy for themselves, you know, like a Coca-Cola. You know, you can look after the team as much, you know, as much as you want, because they won't spend money, because it's about 500 rupees for a bottle of Coke when you get high in the mountains.
Yeah,
they won't buy that for themselves. So, you know, after a ward and a hard day, if they're sat around the table, you know, then I've seen people go up and say, guys, everyone want a Coke? You know?
Yeah, exactly. If you're comfortable doing that, yes, it's great. I mean, they'll love you for it, and I think that's one of the things, isn't it, with the guys? They never stop smiling. Doesn't matter how hard their day's been, because let's be honest, you know, you're carrying duffel bags at altitude, and some of them, and this is nuts, right? I mean, I've tried dozens of times to give these guys better footwear, but when I give them the footwear, the next day I'll still see them in their flip-flops. And I'm like, guys, you can wear your footwear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's because that's how they do it over there. It's mad.
Yeah.
But you know, you don't want to, excuse the pun, step on their toes by, you know, getting involved with their culture. But it's, you know, there's things like that where it's like, okay, right. Even though you could tell them how to do certain things, we kind of let them be themselves. If they want to do that, that's fine. But yeah, there's loads of questions coming in. Loads. I think we'll start with Dave. I know there's a few here that are related to tips. I think Kirsty Ann, hey Kirsty, it mentions a good point there, and you mentioned about when you were in Tanzania and you give it to your head guide to sort out. This is where it's a little bit different in Nepal, because most guides don't like to do it. They find it quite uncomfortable. I know because you're right. When we were in Tanzania, one of our guides was okay with that, even though we chose because we were there. We kind of divvied it up anyway.
Yeah.
But it's certainly good to get one of the team to do it rather than the guide. Just that's the way they do it in Nepal. But yeah, I know in Tanzania, and if you do get friendly with any of them and you want to support them afterwards, fantastic.
Yeah.
We know people that have done that on our groups, and we realize the power of these guys are your guides. They're looking after you, but you become mates as well. It's part of the journey.
And I think yeah, so basically when it comes to, so you were talking there about like kit and stuff like that as well, like yeah, any kit and stuff like that, any equipment,
Yes.
and any items like that you want to donate to the guys at the end, that's great. Absolutely, 100%
Yeah.
encourage that.
Yeah,
And
Sitel mentioned that, didn't she? I
yeah,
think, donate the equipment. I think, yeah, loads of us do. Dave, I know you've left some of your equipment, and you're like, I missed that jacket. But at the time, you wanted
I've done it so often, man. But the thing is, at the time, like I've given away, I don't know, 2 Gore-Tex jackets, a down jacket. Maybe I'm too generous. I'm good,
given loads of stuff.
But yeah, loads of hats, loads of buffs, loads of gloves, that sort of thing. Because I'm a degenerate anyway, and I buy hundreds of this stuff. So when I'm out there, yeah, I know even John as well, the great bald Yeti, when he was there, he gave loads of his kit away and stuff like that. Largely because you have that feeling of just you want to reward them as much as you can because of everything that they've done. But yeah, also when I think someone said then about, I think you made a really good point there about like why we choose to give the tips, but how it can be culturally different depending on which trip you go on. When you go to Tanzania, it's kind of a little bit more structured, so the guide does take control. You will have quite often maybe a bit of paper or something like that, and you can work it out and then hand it to the guide.
It's quite easy, isn't it?
In Nepal, it's better to work it out yourselves and then individually give it to everyone, because the guides won't want to have a pile of money and then reward themselves out of that.
Yeah.
And the rest, because it might rate, they're too concerned about, oh, well, is that too much? Is it too little? When it's given to them, it's greatly appreciated, and it takes away a lot of that like sort of stress for them. So yeah, just at the end in Lukla, you'll all be having a party, a beer, you'll be eating food. A couple of you will just slope off with the cash, divvy it up, come back, and then give it to them all in a lovely kind of almost like a ceremony, really. And then you party together, yeah, before you get up early with a hangover.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, just going through some of the questions. We did have some, Dave, because I know we've obviously talked about tips a lot here, which is fine and it's great.
Yeah.
I know someone mentions here, I think it was Danny. Just trying to find your comment there. How much people tip in on the Kili trip? Does it work the same as Nepal? So yeah, Kili is a bit different. The Kili is actually a lot higher with regards to tips because you have such a bigger entourage. Like for instance, say in a group of sort of 9 or 10. You'll have over about 30 porters, whereas in Nepal, plus your guides, your assistant guides, so there can be sometimes up to 40 people. But when in Nepal, it's a bit different because we're not carrying our tents, because we're not carrying all that gear, because we're staying in tea houses. We have a relatively smaller team. Obviously, you've got your guides and your assistant guides, and normally, say a group of 10, you'd have a head guide who kind of deals with all the logistics. Then you'll have a 2 or 3 sort of assistant guides who assist, beginning, middle, and end kind of thing, looking after the team. And then you've got your porters, and normally it's 1 porter between 2 people. But some guides do like to use yaks as well. But we do almost 95% of our trips are when they're porters. So it's 1 porter for 2 guides, so they'll carry 2 bags, no more than that. And that's generally, so as you can imagine, a group of 10, that means there's only 5 porters. So yeah, with regards to the amount of money, it is slightly lower than Kili. Kili is, I think culturally they expect more as well.
Yeah, but
it's just one thing I've noticed,
It's because it's like a whole village moving up the mountain,
Yeah.
So you can have a team of like 50 people, because all the gas bottles, the tents, all the infrastructure, all the bags, everything gets carried up, So when you see the tent, when you see the size of the mess tent and you think someone's going to carry that, and then
I love Alan Smith's on here as well. I know I was so jealous, Alan, when I saw your picture of that whiskey. He carried that bottle of whiskey all the way up there and had it with the boys. So yeah, well done, Alan.
Remember summit of Kili, we all had a little shot of whiskey. I had some Dalmore, which was really nice. Andy had this shot glass that was quite heavy, to be fair. Not a shot glass, like a what do you call, hip flask.
Hip flask, yeah.
Handed it over to a Scott friend, Doug, and Doug poured it back like that, opened his mouth.
I know. He's well, I did reward him with a bottle of Penderyn I took up to Scotland about a month and a half ago. So he's happy now. He's happy now.
Yeah.
But no, Alan, fantastic, mate, and thanks for coming with us. Again, did it at 72 as well, mate. So if I had a hat, I'd take it off to you right now because that is absolutely unbelievable. But also, well, not unbelievable, fantastic is the word. But right, yeah, just cracking on with some of these questions, guys. I know we're doing great with time. A few people actually emailed it as well, so I want to take on those questions just so we don't miss those out. Not necessarily relevant to this, but you know what it's like on these lives. We always tend to start one thing and then loads of questions come in. Gillian Harrison asked, purely out of interest, does trekking, hiking, and altitude get easier for you guys on each ascension? I take it if you're doing multiple trips, and does it get easier every time? Like, I suppose just to answer it, no. You well, actually, Dave, I want you to answer this one because you've got a great way of saying it.
Well,
essentially,
essentially, yeah. So every time you go to altitude is the first time, essentially. You know. So, I did that on a little video, by the way. So yeah, but essentially, essentially, I'll say it again. It does and it doesn't. I think no, it doesn't on the acclimatization side of things. So every time myself and Andy and everyone else goes to altitude, we have to go through the same acclimatization process as everyone else. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not so great. Sometimes you might get a headache, sometimes you might not. So it's all a little bit different. What does kind of get easier is the more experience you get of going on these trips, there's little tiny things that get a little bit easier that just free up your mind, basically. So what to pack, you know, you don't have that stress anymore because I know exactly what to bring. You know, how much currency do I need, all of that sort of thoughts. And also the experience of, you know, you've done it before, you know, so you've got that comfort level that I've tested myself, I know I can do it. And it just gives you that sort of encouragement, but that's all mental, you know. When it comes to the physical side of it, if anything, it's getting harder for me because I get less and less fit each time I go. But yeah, no, it's you have to go through the same acclimatization process as everyone else. No skipping days, no going fast, following the mountain rules, and yeah, each time it's different. To be honest with you, never easier, always different.
Yeah, exactly. No, mate, great. Yeah, look, great answer. It is one of those things. I think you're right that the mental side of it becomes easier because you've done it before, but the physical aspect is the same. Like you said, it goes through the same process. But it's a really good question, Gillian. Danny Mitchell as well. She's asked a couple of ones. So the wise ones are EverTrek. I don't know. We're not that wise. You've asked on the Kili trip, but which is cool. If we're taking a sleeping mat with us, what sort do you recommend? Yeah, Dave, there's a few different types. I know the ones that we used on Kili before, because you can get those self-inflate ones. I know we had the mats. What's the name of the make that we used?
This happened last week.
I know it did. I always have a mind blank with these. I don't know
why. I can never do it as
if anyone was watching that and does remember, do drop it in because
I think Lauren is probably shaking her head now because she found it out for Thermarest.
Thermarest.
Yeah. So I have honestly, I was about to Google it, but I didn't get that far. Yeah.
You found it in your mind palace.
Yeah, Thermarest mat is the
best ones.
Yeah, it depends. Like I tend to like a firm bed. So after a while, I think Andy had my Thermarest and I slept without it because he was getting more benefit from it than I was, and to me it was just kind of like too soft. But you know, I'll be honest, the whole trip without it probably would have been a bit sore.
Hey, Mark's talked in here, and I'm going to give a shout out to Mark actually because he was very kind and sent us some of his coffee, which was fantastic. So Mark, sorry mate, I know I'm going to give you a bit of a thing here because the coffee was fantastic. We had one from Tanzania, which was really good, and also one from Peru. I did prefer the Tanzanian one though, I got to say. But Mark, thanks for that coffee. Give Mark a little Google, everyone, Mark Torling, because the coffee is fantastic. And cheers for sending them my way, mate. But yeah, Thermarest. And yeah, she also asked around sleeping bags. Are we better off using the ones that we supply? Obviously, because you're traveling, you know, half around the world to get it. or would you take your own? And yeah, it's just personal preference. To be honest, it's one of those things that if you feel like it's cleaner using your own and you want to take it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because sleeping bags can be quite big. You put that in your duffel bag. What's that?
Musty.
Yeah.
They're not brand new and they have been used before, so it depends on your comfort level. If you don't mind the odd sort of stuffy, stale smell you're not used to, that's fine. They're perfect. They'll keep you warm. You only notice the smell the first time you open them, and then your body will be just as bad as the bag, so it kind of equals out. But yeah, or if you want to buy your own, you can. They can be quite expensive. But we always recommend, if you're going to rent one, bring a liner in it. And so
exactly. Yeah, great shout there. It's good with the liners. It just keeps it a bit clean, and it's just something else you can just slip into.
Yeah, I tell you what, mind. I'm just going to jump in a sec because I love it when we've never had before.
Okay.
That we can expand on. So Amanda Hilton. Cultural question: what are the views on the gay community in Nepal? For example, she doesn't want to be in trouble or disrespectful to anyone if she holds her wife's hand. Amanda, in my experience, which I'll be honest is not any sort of real experience, but Nepal is an incredibly understanding and accepting place. I've not seen any hostilities to anything or anyone really in Nepal at all. So I would say yes, go to Nepal, hold your wife's hand, enjoy yourself, be as you would normally, they're very like the Nepalese in their very nature are quite sort of I think deferent is the right word. They're quite quiet, quite deferent.
They'll never voice that opinion to you, will they?
Even if they did hold it, they wouldn't express it. But in my honest opinion, I think the Nepalese and their culture is the most friendly that I've personally experienced. I've not seen any negativity to anybody in any sort of walk of life at all. It even goes as far as their religious communities. They're mainly sort of Buddhist and Hindu, but they have joint temples where they worship together. There's a lot of religious harmony and respect there. That's in my honest opinion. I think you'd be absolutely fine. But great question.
I agree.
I love questions like that because it's not something that might necessarily occur to us. So when they pop up, I always think it's great to get them out there.
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, just going through the ones off the email again, Dave. I think it was Andrew Gallagher. Andrew, I don't know if you joined us here, but do the porters prefer duffel bags or backpacks? To be honest, they both are relatively easy. What they normally do is that we have like a big sack, if you like, sort of branded sack, and then the backpack is fine. But generally, because we use our duffel bags, I'd say 80% of people do use them. But it's personal preference, guys. Whichever you got. If you've got one and you feel like you don't need to get another one, that's fine. And don't forget, you get to keep one of ours as well when you arrive in Nepal. So you get a duffel bag, and we always say use ours just because obviously it's great for us. I know it's got our logo on it, but they're actually really good bags, and you're going to get battered. They're going to get dusty. If you're going to use any that's going to get damaged, just use ours. And obviously you get to keep that as well. So you can take it back and you can use it for some storage in your garage if you want to. But yeah, so that's my answer to that question.
David Clayton has said, any advice on taking loads of vitamins along for, say, Annapurna circuit? Is it practical to take 20 days worth of meds? Get a multivit, 20 tablets, job done. To be honest, I always take some when I go, but I always get a multivit, maybe a tube of Baroccas or something like that, just to sort of, make sure you're getting all those supplements that you might not be getting from your diet. I always have a bag. It's about this big. It's like basically like a wash bag essentially that I put all like paracetamol, ibuprofen, all of that sort of stuff in there, Diamox and whatnot. So it's all in one little case about that big, and I've always been able to take more than I've ever needed. So it shouldn't take up too much space in your bag or anything like that. But take whatever you need. Don't leave anything that you think you might need. If anything, like sacrifice something else to put that in, because it's all about peace of mind. Do you know what I mean? So you don't want to go there wishing you'd have bought something. So there's no. I've seen people pack like 5 beanies. You only need one. So get rid of 4 and put something else in that you need. So that's what it's all about. Peace of mind over anything, really. Most people would rather wear a dirty T-shirt for 5 days in a row and be happy than have a fresh T-shirt and feel like they forgot something. So,
Jackie Bawley has asked a good question actually. Do we have any female guides or porters? out of general curiosity. We have seen them on the trail. Unfortunately, they're few and far between. There are some female guides who do. Unfortunately, we don't have any at the moment, because again, there's literally out of thousands and thousands of guides, there might be a handful, and they're already sort of snapped up, if you like. But Nepal, I think they are quite old school, and they're not as far ahead as we are. In terms of that. When it comes to hiring women, unfortunately, it is something that Nepal needs to work on, and they are trying to work on it by encouraging more female guides. But I haven't seen many. Dave, have you? I know I've seen a couple.
I've seen a few. I've seen more on Kili. So
yes,
it is one of those things, and I think, but it's partially to do with the nature of the job. Like historically,
thanks, Brian.
Like porters work generally, there's two, basically there's the trekking porters, which work 6 months of the year during the trekking season. And then during the rest of the time, there's like other porters, that carry supplies and stuff. And some of those guys, they need to carry 100 kilos on their back and things like that. So I think historically speaking, that's always been done by like the men, and then women have stayed at home and stuff like that, and done like the important job of raising kids and keeping the household going and stuff like that. So generally, that's just the division of labor, and I dare say it's not too different over here in some respects with regards to like manual laboring and stuff like that. Some women, but not a lot, mainly men. It's the same in Nepal. In Tanzania, I saw more because the women in Tanzania and in Africa do a lot of carrying stuff. They carry the stuff on their heads and stuff.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
And they carry a lot of that. So you'll actually see way, way more females carrying heavy loads on their heads around the cities of like Moshi and stuff like that than you will men. As a result, they tend to do well in the mountains. So you do see more of them in Tanzania. And I don't know if I've seen any porters, definitely guides. I've seen female guides, helicopter pilots, flight attendants, flight pilot, plane pilots and stuff like that, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, not many porters. I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing. It's not an enjoyable job, I think, carrying 100 kilos on your back, so.
Yeah. I think it is in the mountain. I know in the Sherpa community, especially, it's a cultural thing where kind of the guys are expected, the ones to go off and do it. Where the females are expected to stay at home. That's kind of the way they live. But I know that there's pockets of Nepal now that are getting a bit more educated in that. So yeah, fingers crossed. There's we can get. I'd love to have some female EverTrek guides. That'd be fantastic. We're always about it with the guys.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. I'm all for it. I know the guys in Tanzania, because we had a conversation on the table after the trip, and I brought up that we had a female porter in our group, and they were telling us, they're trying to, give females more opportunity to go and, have work in the mountains and take part in that part of society and make a life for themselves and stuff like that. She was going to open a restaurant, I think, for tourists.
That's right. Yeah, but I think I might have been with you that time, Dave. I can't remember.
Yeah, we're all sat around the table. To be honest, we just got off the mountain, so we were all a bit sort of threatened.
We're a bit tired.
But she's going to open a restaurant and stuff like that, and she's using her porter in Korea to basically fund the restaurant and stuff like that. So that's what we're all for. We want that sort of growth.
Exactly. Yeah. Great question. Jisoo has asked as well on the Nepal trips. They are all inclusive. Sounds great, but do you have an option of choosing food yourself? So it's an open menu, so we don't kind of say, okay, you can have this today. It's a menu, and you can kind of choose what you want off there. So it's because the other day you got to eat what you need, what you fancy at that time. Because one of the things of altitude is that you probably lose your appetite at one time or another. So sometimes it's just nice to go for the easy stuff to eat, like just some carbs and potatoes or some chips. Or some eggs, to get some protein, just something nice and easy. Where other times you can maybe be a bit more extravagant and go for a pizza if you want to, or some pasta. Sometimes you just need that energy. You'll find you'll go up and down with regards to obviously the trip, but with the way out, your hunger. I know, had to get that in, Dave. So yeah, definitely with that you can choose your own food, mate. So that answers your question.
It is a little bit funny with the hunger. I know. I see. I never lose my appetite, but you do sometimes, don't you? And like at altitude.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things that always
I
happens.
love it. So whenever I'm on a trip, I'll sit next to Andy at dinner because he'll always get extras. But yeah, the menu is strange. Like I usually start out eating dal bhat, which is like the national dish of Nepal, and it's what all the guides, all the porters eat. You know, it's just you'll see it on t-shirts, dal bhat power, 24-hour. But 11 days, you know, 3 meals a day, 33 dal bhats, it's too much. You know, in fact, breakfast and then maybe 2 dal bhats a day. John, again, he tried to have dal bhat every day, and to be fair, I think he made it to about 17 dal bhats. And then after a while, then he had to call it quits, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love me a bit of dal bhat.
I remember that actually, because yeah, he stopped. He said, "Right, I'm not going to have dal bhat today," and then it was the best dal bhat we had the entire trip. And I felt so bad.
We stopped at a place we don't normally stop at, and we were like, "Oh, let's have some dal bhat." And they picked all the fresh
vegetables. Garden, didn't they? It was fantastic.
Yeah, homemade chutney, and John was sat there with his spaghetti bolognese. And yeah, best dal bhat I've ever had. Dal bhat power.
Yeah, dal bhat. Diane just asked, "What is dal bhat?" It's primarily lentils, isn't it?
It's fuel.
It's
pure fuel.
Yeah, it's lovely stuff, but it generally comes with. And it's always different in each place you go. It's never
like curried vegetables.
Yeah.
A lentil dal and rice.
And rice, yeah, pretty much all the time.
Yeah, but it's always a little bit different, like depending. And sometimes you might get a little like poppadom or something like that. It's like a poppadom, isn't it? And like on the side. It's a great thing to order if you are starving because you'll get seconds. They always have tons of dal bhat on the go all the time. So they'll bring around you, it's like a metal tray with the dal and stuff like that on it. And then once you finish that, they'll come around more curry, more rice, more dal. And yeah, you won't be able to eat another thing. I've never been hungry on any of the treks I've ever done. It's one thing we do is probably there's like way more food than any one human could consume in a lifetime.
It's loads, isn't it? And yeah, Diane, honestly, you won't go hungry if you eat that. And it's always the best. I mean, I say 70% of the time that's what I eat. You know, and I do, you know, I am a meat eater in the UK, but when I'm on the trek, I tend to go veggie. You know, it's just better for you up there. And you know what? It's always hilarious because you come back and I am gagging for some meat, but you know, I feel miles better. And I know I need to give up meat, but I'm working on it.
I'm trying. I'm almost there. Flexitarian, I think, is what it's called.
Yeah, definitely a flexitarian. But you're doing well, Dave. You're doing really well.
Yeah, doing well, little by little, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Small steps, mate. That's how we get everywhere in this life.
Yeah.
Right, Russell asked a good question. How many local guides do you have on regular trips on the Annapurna circuit? So yeah, it depends on how big our groups are at the time. Annapurna for us is nowhere near as popular as Everest Base Camp for us.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say for every 50 people we probably get 5 on Annapurna. So you can see how it's different. So yeah, if say most of our guides have done Annapurna loads of times as well as the Everest region. So normally the guides that we use for Annapurna, they don't necessarily come from that region, but they would have come from another region, say whether that be the Khumbu, which is where Everest is, or one of the other areas. Gorkha is quite a big popular one, which is where the Gurkhas are from, even though it's pronounced as Gorkha. I know it's been kind of spelt differently, but that's where all the Gurkhas originate from, which is quite cool. And a lot of them become guides, fantastic guides.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it just depends on the size of the group. And I think someone asked earlier, I think it was Alan actually asked about group sizes next year. And yeah, just to clarify, I mean, even though that, you know, we've had to accommodate moving people's trips because of COVID this year, we've opened up dozens and dozens of new dates and sometimes run into sort of parallel groups, if you like, just to accommodate, you know, the situation. But in terms of our group sizes, yeah, they're no bigger than they normally are. You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Also, let's have a quick look. So just saw a couple of questions. One from Jerome. Does anyone have inoculation for Japanese encephalitis for EBC? I don't think it's needed, Jerome. I think it's one of those that's like optional. Sure, yeah. I think that's in the lowlands. If it is at all, I think it is in Nepal, but I think it's in the lowlands where that particular beetle or insect or something causes it.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on that, but yeah, I know I've been to the travel clinic a lot of times, and I am a pin cushion. If I see, you know, an inoculation that I can have, put it in, mate. But yeah, you don't need.
You go for all the optional ones.
Yeah, it's 100%, mate. I'm total protected, meningitis, everything. Yeah, and there was another question I saw then. So I think it's got Lisa Gill. Do the sleeping bags get cleaned after being used and the coats? To a degree. So generally, they'll be down and stuff like that. So you're not going to put them through like a heavy wash or anything like that. But the dirt and stuff will be like wiped off them and stuff like that. But don't expect them to be like shop new or anything like that. They may still have an element of fragrance still left there and stuff like that. But yeah, what we do make sure is that they're perfectly serviceable and usable.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, they're not going to be in brand new condition. As you can imagine, wearing like a down jacket and using a sleeping bag all the time, it doesn't take long before it's clearly used. But as long as it keeps you warm and stops you, getting frostbite, then yeah, we're all down for it.
Yeah, exactly. Jerome asked a good question as well. Do EverTrek go up Annapurna or around? Yeah, well, we do Annapurna Base Camp, which you technically go up to, Jerome. And then we do go around because on the circuit. So those are the two routes we do at the moment, mate. I'm not sure about climbing Annapurna. That was quite dangerous. It's one of those that the amount of mountaineers I've heard talk about climbing in the Himalayas, it's always Annapurna where you can clearly see. Ooh, it's something, there was a guy called Alan Hinks I met at Keswick Mountain Festival a couple of years ago. First British guy to climb all the 14 8,000ers. And even he said, if anyone paid me to do Annapurna, no one would get me back there. He'd do Everest again, he'd do other mountains again, but he wouldn't go back to Annapurna. It's too dangerous.
Yeah, it's the most dangerous 8,000er in the world. A lot of people call Cake the killer mountain, but actually, in terms of the amount of people that reach the summit and then die trying, Annapurna is the most deadly, highest death rate compared to those people. Based on the ratios of those people climbing it. Yeah, it's to do with avalanche risk, stuff like that. I think it's just
it's the angle of the face. It's more prone to avalanches. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So Annapurna, one of them that. I definitely want to climb an 8,000er, and I definitely will, but that will be the 14th one I climb.
I'll do the other ones first. I'm the same as that. But yeah, very, very good. It's funny, Alan said about Dalbat does get boring. I know. I'm just like you, Alan. I couldn't wait to have chips, and I couldn't wait to get back and order a Domino's. I do love my pizza. I do get that withdrawal symptoms from food. I do like, but
yeah, Joel was bat in the original recipe. It's more like bat, so BH. Yeah, bat. So yeah, bats. So we're not going to do it again.
Great line, Dave. Great line.
Fortunately.
And on that bombshell, I was joking. Right, yeah, great. So any more questions then, guys? I know we've gone on for a while now. Just while everyone's on, don't forget, I will put up the link again. If anyone wants to enter the Everest Base Camp competition, I've just dropped it into the comments. Definitely get yourself involved. We'll be doing more of that over the next sort of coming weeks, and then we're announcing the winner on the 3rd of November.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got plenty of Tuesday tune-ins in between. We'll probably be obviously we always do Q&As and things like that. So we'll be in touch. But definitely get yourself onto all of our lives. And yeah. Other than that, Dave, anything else from you? Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. Really excited about the competition. I think. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how many winners we've actually sent now, but it's quite a few. I know I've tracked with two.
Yeah. Well, it's always we always see it as we've had a fan. We love obviously what we do and helping people take on challenges. It's obviously not ideal at the moment, but when we get back, we're going to absolutely smash these trips. We're going to can't wait for them. But this is our way of saying, okay, we want to change somebody else's life and to get them back out to Nepal because we love Nepal and we can't wait to get people back out there and to look after the porters and the guides and they can have some work.
Exactly. Well, I was supposed to be there in October, so I'm feeling particularly sore about it. I can't wait to get back. But yeah, no, it's going to be awesome, guys, and thank you very much.
Great stuff. All right, nice one, guys. See you next Tuesday.
All the best, guys. Bye.
Bye.